Let's make our first malt extract beer.
Home beer brewing. What's up with that? How do we do it? I'm definitely no expert, but I am a microbiologist, and I decided to brew home beer from this malt syrup that I picked up at a local store. I already did 2 loads in this fermenter, so I produced 10 liters of beer, 2 kinds sort of, because I use different hopping techniques and different yeast, and both of them are really nice. So now I'm doing it again, and I decided to shoot a video about it. So first we have the malt syrup in a can standing in hot water to soften up the syrup and make it easier to pour out of the can. Meanwhile, I will boil some water. Important thing is that you need to sterilize all your equipment. I actually don't sterilize it, I just sort of pasteurize, heat treat it, because the water we get from the tap is like 70 degrees, so it's hot enough to, yeah, burn away anything alive, I suppose, or definitely affect any living bacteria and yeasts. So I just rinse everything in very hot water, sometimes boiling water, but I don't use any cleaning solutions. I know that there's lots of products you can buy, dilute them with water and sort of use everything. I just prefer to do it with hot water. So after we have everything rinsed, it is time to mix the malt syrup with boiling water. After cleaning everything, sterilizing it with boiling water, hot water, or cleaning solutions, you will do 2 things. You will dilute the malt syrup in boiling water and add some sugar. I think there's other things you can do, like dry malt extract and I suppose honey, I don't know, whatever rocks your boat. In a more complex all-grain wort preparation, I don't think you add anything. I think you just boil out the wort from the malted grains, but this can calls for adding sugar. So that's what we're gonna do, one thing. And then second thing is that we're gonna get hops. This is Mosaic trademarked hops, which I really enjoy in the commercial beers that I get. So I use it in my first home brews, and we're gonna steep it in boiling water for a few minutes and then just add it to the mixture. So I guess that's enough. It smells amazing. And yeah, this is really difficult to open, but here we go. I'm gonna put it here. Boom, boom, boom. So you definitely should be measuring this. The can is for 23 liters of beer. I am now making the 20th liter because it's the 4th batch of 5-liter beers. So I'm just using the rest of the can, and I definitely just eyeballed it. I tried to use the half of the can for the first 2 brews that I done at the same time, and then about a quarter for the 3rd one. And obviously, this being the last one, I'll just try to get all the syrup out and dilute it in water. And it's hot, 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 hot. All right, let's say that's it. I guess you could do better. So just pour some hot water with malt back into the can. Wait a bit until it dissolves, because it does take quite a while to dissolve. It's very thick. You should be using very clean equipment, so I'm gonna get this chopstick and rinse it with hot water. I suppose it's boiling here anyway, so it does sterilize. All right, so now it's just to make a homogeneous solution of the malt and add sugar. Actually, it looks like it's more malt than I didn't eyeball it very well, and it's definitely more malt in the last batch, so I'm adding a bit less sugar. Yeah, I don't know, people don't recommend doing this, but the first 2 beers came out so nicely that I do appreciate just like eyeballing it, trying different things, and seeing how it works out. So yeah, I got all the malt syrup out of the can. I've added the sugar. It's pretty dissolved now. It doesn't have to be 100% dissolved because we're gonna be transferring into a fermenter. So mine is very very improvised. It's from a bottle that held 5 liters of ethanol. So it's very clean. This was used for brewing beer before, and it's been cleaned with hot water after. So now that we have that ready, we'll just pour the wort or the dissolved malt syrup with sugar into the fermenter. Okay, and it's clearly not all dissolved, but it doesn't matter because now it's very hot in there. It's like 90 degrees, and the yeast will die when the temperature is above 50. So I will be now diluting it with clean cold water from the tap. We get really nice quality water here, so I'm not worried about contaminants. And this will dissolve the residual sugar and the syrup from the bowl. And at this point you should be careful not to cool it too much, because my first beer, actually one of the 2 first beers that I made at the same time, I put in way too cold water. So it was quite cold. It's supposed to be 18 to 21 degrees. I suppose it depends on what yeast you're using and what kind of beer you're trying to brew. But this recipe says 21 degrees. So yeah, you can just kind of feel it out. Next, before we run out of space in the fermenter, I'm gonna strain out the steamed, brewed hops, just to get rid of the plant matter. Yeah, this is hot liquid that smells a lot like beer, like very strong bitter smell. It's awesome, I really like it. But yeah. In one of the recipes I used dry hopping, which is adding the pellets of hops straight into the fermenter, and it did produce really nice flavors, but I hated removing the floating plant matter from the beer before bottling it, so I decided to stick to the seeping method. So now that we have our wort or malt syrup extract added to the fermenter with cold water and the hops extract, I suppose, water extract, we can add yeast. So if you're just starting out, you will get a sachet of dried yeast that you just drop straight into the fermenter. But I saved some culture from the previous brew I tried 2 different types of yeast, and I prefer this one. It's called lager yeast. I think it's a different species of yeast, not Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is the one I'm more familiar with. Yeah, it's produced really nice beer, so I'm just gonna pop it in, and that's it. Now we're gonna close the fermenter, and with this airlock, there's a bunch of different airlocks you can use. You can use just a tube, which has like a cap with the water in it. This one is a little S-shape, like under your sink, and yeah, basically it will produce bubbles and only push the air out as the fermentation continues like that, and not let any air in. So there you go. I use the bottles to just write on straight, but I'm gonna tape this over and write the information of this beer, which would be, yeah, much more malt syrup than I used before, lager yeast, and steeped hops. And the date, I suppose, because it's supposed to ferment for 5 to 7 days, and then you're ready to bottle it. Behind me is a fermenter that I filled on the 19th of May, which is 3 days ago from now, and the fermentation has slowed down quite significantly from the first 2 days when it was just bubbling like crazy. Now it's doing like 1 bubble in maybe, I don't know, 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds. And the color became a bit paler, not that you can see much through the cloudy wall of the fermenter, but yes, it's going really well, and I will be bottling it in 3 days maybe. We'll see how it goes. And there in some bottles is the second beer I've made with some priming sugar waiting for it to become carbonized. But you're definitely not supposed to do it like this. You're supposed to bottle it with a siphon. But what I did is just that I poured it into the bottles, again clean bottles, and I just poured the foamy head. I first poured through the funnel with a filter, and I got rid of that. And then I just tried to pour as clean beer as possible. But of course it's very cloudy. This one is quite pressurized. And one of them I poured earlier today. It was great. It produced like a really nice foamy head, which the first beer didn't. This is the second fermentation. And yeah, so when you do bottle your beer, preferably use a clean siphon, plastic tube to siphon into each bottle. And you add priming sugar or dextrose, anything. I think you can buy pills that are just pressurized pills of dextrose or sugar. I just pour some granular sugar into each bottle. These are the bottles I got for my work. They're PET and they're very clean and food safe. So here we go. It's, yeah, unfiltered, very hoppy, I suppose Canadian blonde lager. Bam. So you're supposed to ferment it over the course of 5 to 7 days, then bottle it with the priming sugar and let it sit in room temperature for up to 2 weeks. So this carbonation was produced over 1 day. I think over the course of 2 weeks it will become clearer because the yeast will sediment due to inactivity, and it will be easier to pour clear beer. Me personally, I don't mind the yeast flavor. It's not too yeasty because this one is quite hoppy since it's been dry hopped. So it has a very bitter flavor. Yeah, it's quite carbonated. I really like it. Yeah, tastes like homebrewed beer.